So give us an insight into your main character.
Chaucer. He is a skinny college student who is sick and tired of his roommate, and he wants to just leave. I kind of put myself in his shoes when I was in seminary. When I was at seminary, I had roommates that I just didn't approve of, but I didn't want to go back home, so I just stayed. And all the things I could have done instead of working all the time. And one time I did go hitchhiking, and I think I kind of compiled all that together, and threw it into his experience. He goes hitchhiking. Thank God none of the things happened to me that happened to him. But anyway, he's a really cool guy. He just likes to read a lot, and if the world was his oyster, he would just sit around and read all day, probably edit Wikipedia articles. You know, that's the type of guy he is. I'm not like that, but thank God. He's almost boring. He's almost boring. He's a recluse, and but at the same time, he, in this instance, is probably bred for this role. He doesn't know it yet, but he was.
And what is your book about?
So, By the Gates of the Garden of Eden is about a guy, Chaucer, who is going along. One day he's kidnapped because he's hitchhiking. It's not why. He's hitchhiking. The whole car gets kidnapped. Jeff and Tammy and their son, Jamie, and he are taken by what appears to be Bigfoot. And they wake up, or he wakes up alone. He's branded, given some brands on his right arm. And that's scary. And then he's taken into a room, and this green well, and these things happen. And anyway, these dudes are like, 15, 20 feet tall, and it's very scary, the things he has to endure. He's made to work as a miner, M-I-N-E-R, not M-I-N-O-R. You must become a child and do the things we do. No. He's made to work as a miner, and he escapes, and eventually, he has to go save the girl and be the hero. So that's the book, basically.
What genre does this fall into?
Scary as shit. The things that I talk about in the book are just, oh man, I don't know. So I'm kind of marketing it as supernatural thriller, kind of like Dean Koontz or Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft. Not horror per se, but almost horror, because horror is that genre where everything's gonna die and you have to survive, like Jumanji. That's an actual horror story. But it's a thriller in that you need to survive, but there's a way out. You have to get to the way out. One of the websites that I went to forced me to market it as supernatural occult. So there's a little bit of that supernatural element into it. There's a lot of supernatural element to it. There's no vampires or werewolves, but there's some crazy stuff.
What draws you to this genre?
I'm a very macabre person. I watched, what was that movie that I watched last night?
My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
No, after my wife and I watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I watched The Scribbler, and she's like, I am out of here. Because it was just, so crazy. And I don't know, I've always been drawn to crazy, weird stuff. When I was 10, I watched An American Werewolf in London, which I think severely altered my psyche. But even as a child growing up in a Christian home, I would read Daniel and Ezekiel and Revelations, St. John of the Apocalypse, the last book. And it's like all these crazy things. And I was like, wow, why don't we have more stuff like this? And every now and again, you get some type of good versus bad, and it's like Constantine, the movie, not the comic book, which was awesome. And then the TV show, I haven't checked that out yet, but Constantine or I, Frankenstein or Dracula 2000 even, with what's that guy from 300?
He was also from Phantom of the Opera.
This is Sparta. Anyway, he was in
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler, yeah. He was in Dracula 2000, and it's like, here's Christianity and here's mythos, and like, oh, that one movie with Audrey Tautou and Tom Hanks. The Rembrandt thing, Leonardo Da Vinci Code. Yeah,
I never saw it.
So yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's sad and disheartening, and it's actually a role both of them should be ashamed of. But there's secrets, in the Catholic Church, Vatican basements, and even National Treasure with
Nicolas Cage.
Not the bees. Yeah. That stuff. Going around and finding it all and putting it all together. I think cinematically, Steven Spielberg had a lot to do with that with the Raiders of the Lost Ark series, except for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which was stupid. Thank you, Shia LaBeouf. And what was the question?
What draws you to this genre?
Oh, it's scary.
So, speaking of movies, if this was made into a movie, which actor or actress would you like to see playing the lead character?
Chaucer would be played by someone unknown. Someone who'd never been to the scene before. Like Mark Hamill in Star Wars. And it would define his whole career and just be ruined by it. I don't know. Adira, his love interest, could be played by anyone. I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. I don't think it would matter, as long as the director, like I, Frankenstein. I love Aaron Eckhart, right? I liked him in Thank You for Smoking. He was great. I didn't like him as Two-Face, but he was okay. He's a good actor. He's a good actor. But the director just chopped that thing to give that whole script to me. I'll fix it for you, because they put all their money into the special effects. And this is just any movie that I'm talking about could redo the whole thing. Just really good, I mean, you don't have to have a lot of special effects. Look at Memento. It's the way you ordered it. It's the sequence. It's the way it makes sense. In that, you don't have to have the actors. You get that rare scene, like Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained, where he's sitting there and he's banging his fist on the table, and he accidentally breaks his skin because he's banging his head on the glass. And he's bleeding everywhere. That rare scene where you have people just emotional and it's all the actor, but most of the movie is the director. Most of the movie is how it's put together in the end. It's not the lighting effects guy. It is, but it's not him. It's not the gaffer. It's not the key grip guy, but it's mostly the director in the sense of continuity. And I think the director would be more important than the actors. I don't think I would care.
Then who would you want to direct it?
I don't know.
How much research did you do?
For this book?
Yes.
My God. Oh my God. So I'm a game designer, and I've made a collectible card game that's free, and it's called Empires and Generals, and it's a historical card game. And so every time I make a new card, I will put a lot of research into the card. I started getting onto these little rabbit trails every now and again. Like I'd go looking for Persians, or Greeks or Romans, and I'd run off these tangents about, they found this 15-foot tall skeleton, in 1824, and nobody can find it now. but here's his helmet, and here's his huge shield. Like, wow, and you read the story about Goliath and David from the Bible, and there's historical evidence of people that were really, really tall, and there's the secrets of Baalbek or the pyramids of Giza, pyramids in China, in Cambodia, in Mexico, in the Andes. There's structures all around the world that look very similar, and the technology was there. And then you start going back to Akkad and Sumer empires, and you start finding a lot of similarities there, and nowhere else around the world was there any kind of civilization. And all of a sudden, overnight, here's this civilization, bam, happens. And you're like, what in the world? It all comes from this one little place, and it just kind of spreads. And then you start looking at all of the myths around the world of specifically the ancient gods who were really tall and had conical heads, and it all lines up. They were around at pretty much the same time. And then you look at this thing called the Great Deluge myth, and that lined up. And if you piece it all together and you ignore modern science and go with historical record, specifically the historical record of all the peoples that I've, on the planet, from the Ojibwe to the Nazca to the whatever, you get an actual piece of history that lines up mostly with the Jewish Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. And I thought that was really incredible. And I'm a firm believer now, more than I was in the chronological Bible. I have modified my viewpoints from laissez-faire Christianity into a more homogenous Christianity that includes a lot of other myth that wasn't maybe explained to me in Sunday school.